Hello everyone, this video tutorial is for my beginner-friendly classic cardigan and I'll be making it in a size medium or bust size 38 inches. I'm just going to take you through all the tricky parts on the video, but the full written pattern, which is easy to follow and full of diagrams and includes all the other sizes, is available to buy from my Etsy shop. The link's in the description bar below. Okay, right, let's start by looking at the actual finished result so you can see just what it is you're trying to achieve. Now this is called a top-down cardigan, and the reason being is that you start at the very top with a chain and then you work down the cardigan, incorporating the arms at the same time. These aren't separate, they're not stitched on, they're incorporated into the body. But as you work down, the actual cardigan gets wider and wider as it gets longer and longer. The principle is exactly the same as if you're doing what they call a solid granny square. And I've got a link for this below. So if you're trying to work out whether you think, you're at a level of crochet that you can make a cardigan, basically, if you can make this and count all your stitches and it works out okay and it doesn't look wonky, then you're perfectly qualified to make your first garment. As you can see, if I just show you an example here, this is like just a solid granny square when it starts to grow. But instead of just a hole in the middle, it's got a big middle, but you can see the corners are just developing there, like in the granny square. And when you fold it, you can see how it then starts to form the body and the arms. Now then, the stitch I've used is very, very easy. It's literally a row of double crochets, but then it has a row of single crochets in between each double crochet row. Now the reason I do that is because it means that all your double crochet rows are facing forward. You're not seeing the back of them, so you get this really neat overall look. It doesn't grow as quickly as when you're just doing all double crochet rows, but I think it's really worth it to get this nice neat look. I'll show you also how to do the ribbing, which is very easy. It's literally single crochet all the way around. Okay, let's go on from there. All the measurements for this pattern are based on using this yarn from Aldi. Aldi is a supermarket chain in the UK, and it started doing these huge balls of Aran weight yarn. This is really soft and it works up really well, and at £4.99 I was thinking, my god, that's going to be cheap for one cardigan, but actually I used 400 grams, which is one ball, and another 100 grams, so I had to break into another ball, but it didn't matter because I made 2 cardigans out of 3 balls of wool, which still is really reasonable. So an Aran weight yarn, I think if you're in America, is the same as, I think they call it worsted, that's right, worsted weight yarn. It's a medium, a number 4. It'll also have this as the swatch on the label, but this is obviously for knitting, but it'll be an 18 by 24 swatch on the label, and you need a 5mm hook, which is an H10 in the US. As I said, all yarns are different. Just because it's an Aran weight yarn doesn't mean that it's going to be the same as another Aran weight yarn. For instance, I also made the cardigan in this gorgeous Debbie Bliss cashmerino. But because it's extra fine wool, even though it says it's got the same stitch count on the tension, 18 by 24, my cardigan did actually come up slightly smaller, so I had to make a larger cardigan than I did when I used the Aran weight from Aldi. This is where it's kind of important to do your swatch. There's my swatch, and then you can actually see just whether or not your measurements are going to come up the same as mine. Now, the wonderful thing about a top-down cardigan is that it doesn't really matter which size you do, because you can keep trying on the cardigan as you work down. But at the back of the pattern, I've also talked about using alternative yarns if you've got a bust measurement less than 33 inches or 84 centimetres. Go for what we call a DK yarn. Or if you've got a bust measurement over 46.5 inches, I would start to use a bulky weight yarn. The reason being is that all the sizes on the pattern are starting with one single chain, and that just makes it easier. If you're a beginner, you don't have to start by deciding which size you want to do, because you know that every size starts with a chain, the same chain. Anyway, let's start, and we'll go on from there. All the cardigan sizes start with a chain of 41 stitches. So to make our chain, you need a slip knot. So wrap the short end of the yarn around your finger, pull through a loop. Now that's adjustable with the short end. Place it on your hook, wrap the long length around the hook, and then pull it through that first loop. Do that again, wrap it round the hook, pull through the loop, wrap it round the hook, pull through the loop. And you need to keep doing this until you get to 41 chains. So let's just count those at the moment so you can identify a chain. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I need 41. There you go, 41 chains. Now this is our first row, and we're going to start by not working into the front of these chains, but working into these bumps at the back. There's the first bump near the hook, and there's the second bump. So we're going to do a double crochet stitch into that second bump from the hook. So to do a double crochet stitch, you wrap your wool around, go into that first bump, pull through the yarn, wrap the yarn again, pull through 2, wrap the yarn again and pull through 2. Now I would just put a stitch marker just in there, just so that you know that that's your first stitch that you did. Now this is the very front of the cardigan, and the very front of the cardigan is literally made up of just that one double crochet, but it will get bigger. So now we need to work our first corner. So to work a double crochet corner, you wrap the wool around, pull into that next bump, wrap the wool around, pull through 2, wrap the wool around, pull through 2. Then you need to chain 1 and then do another double crochet back into that corner. Wrap the wool around, pull through, wrap the wool around, pull through 2, wrap the wool around, pull through 2. So there's your first corner. Now we're going to do the shoulder. So we need to do 7 more double crochets along there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's your shoulder. So now we need to do another corner. So there's the next bump along. So we're going to do a double crochet into that bump. Just get some wool, sorry. Chain 1 and do another double crochet into the same bump. So there you've got your next corner. There's your next bump along, and we need to now do the back, which should consist of 20 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and into the next bump we do 20. So after the 20 stitches into the back, we do another double crochet corner and then 7 for the shoulder. So a double crochet corner, oops, in that next stitch, or next chain, sorry. So that's, let me just make sure I've got that right. Yes, there you go, there's the bump. A double crochet, a chain 1 and a double crochet back into that same bump. So you get like a V. Now we need to do 7 for the shoulder. One, and 7. So then we're doing our last corner. You've only got 2 bumps left now. The last corner, which is a double crochet, a chain 1 and a double crochet, and then the last stitch that goes into that very last bump just there. Oops, the computer's making a noise. There you go. So now you have your first row completed, and you can see, because you're putting these corners in, it's starting to take shape. Just have a look and see what you've got here. You've got the back of the cardigan, you've then got the left shoulder and the right shoulder, and then at the front you've just got 2 little stitches there, and they're going to grow as we increase the V. So the principle of what's happening in here is every time we make a corner stitch there, then that side of the corner, it gets incorporated into the back, and then this side of the corner gets incorporated into the shoulders, and then again this incorporates into the front. So as you keep making corners, the number of stitches will increase by 2, and that's how it grows and gets bigger. And the size chart actually makes it very clear, so you can see after the row 1, which we've just done, it was a double crochet row. So now the front has got 2 stitches in it, because that corner has become part of the front. So that's 2 stitches in the front, the same on the other side. But that's why I got you to just put that stitch marker in there, because that stitch there is a little bit hidden, but you've got 2 there on the other side. Then you will have 1 chain at the corner, and then the shoulder will have 9 stitches. So now that corner has been incorporated into the shoulder, same there. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the back has 22 stitches. So again, the corner has got incorporated into the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Sorry, yes, the back's got 22 stitches. 1 chain in the corner, and then 9 on the shoulder and 2 at the front. So the chart's completely laid out for you, and it'll tell you what the next row you're going to do is a single crochet row. It'll tell you that at the end of doing those rows how many stitches you will have. So this is why, at least until for the first, the first 7 double crochet rows, it's a good idea to keep counting, because if this isn't right, then the whole cardigan will go wonky. Right, let's start with the next row. The next row, of course you're facing the front here. This is the front of the cardigan, and if you're facing the front, that means this tail, the starting chain tail, will always be on the left hand side. If you turn it this way round, that's the back, and the tail of course is on the right hand side. So the front of the cardigan is always with the tail on the left. So when you're doing a double crochet row, the tail will be always on the left. We're now going to turn and do a single crochet row, which will be the back of the cardigan. Right, again, it'll become clear once we start. So looking at the chart, it says that row 2 is a single crochet row, and it'll have 3 stitches at the front. But don't forget, one of those stitches will be the corner. So I've chained 1, go straight back into that first stitch with a single crochet. There's your next stitch, and you've come right to the corner there. There isn't another one you can go into. So for the third stitch, it will have to go into that corner. So when you're doing a single row, this time you will chain 2, go straight back into that corner. That's now become the first stitch of the shoulder. So the shoulder, it did have 9 stitches, it now needs to have 11. So there's your first one, that was the corner. Now we need to count 11. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 10th stitch is the very last one next to the corner. So you know that the last stitch has to go into that corner. So there's your last stitch, which is 11. Chain 2, and then start the first stitch of your next row back into that corner. And now we need to go straight back in there and make sure that at the end of row 2 we have 24 stitches along the back. So I'll see you when I get to the end of there. My 23rd stitch is just next to that corner. I'm supposed to have 24 along the back row, so we know that that last stitch goes into the corner. 24, chain 2. Now we need to do 9 for the shoulder. So the first shoulder stitch will be the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the very last stitch I can work into before the corner. 10, and we need 11, so that 11th one will go right into the corner. Chain 2 to make a single crochet corner. Go straight back in for your first stitch of the front, and that first stitch on the front on row 2 has to have 3 stitches in it. So there's 1 in the corner, another one next to it, take out the stitch marker, and that's your last stitch there. 3. Right, so that's your second row. Let's go on to the third, because on the third row we're now going to start to increase the front, and I want to show you how we do an increase. It's very easy because we need to form that V-neck. So chain 1, so this has got to have 5 stitches in it. It's an increase row, so that means on an increase row, and it's a double crochet, sorry, so I've chained 1 and then I'm doing a double crochet straight back into that first stitch. So the first stitch of an increase row is an ordinary double crochet. Then we do 2 double crochets into the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then there's another stitch that we can fit into before the corner, and this is the bit where, this is why it's really important to count when you at the beginning of doing this anyway, because it'd be very easy to miss that stitch and go straight into the corner, but no, you've got to see there's another one to go into there. Before doing the corner, and then the last stitch on the front is in that corner. So how many we've got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is exactly what it says we have. It's an increase row and we should have 5. So chain 1, and now we're going to start the shoulder. It's a double crochet row on the shoulder, so go straight back into the corner, And again, make sure this isn't hiding the first stitch that you go into. That's your corner chain there. So on the shoulder, we need to do 13 stitches. So the first one is the corner stitch. 1, 2, 3, 11. Look, there's just one left there to work into, don't lose it. So that's your 12th stitch. And of course the 13th stitch will become part of the corner. So into the corner for the 13th, chain 1, and then we're going across the back. That's your first stitch on the back, second stitch goes straight in there, and then I'll see you when we're on row 3. We need to have done 26 stitches on the back. I'll see you when we get, I'll do the corner for the shoulder, I'll do the shoulder, and then I'll show you how we do the end of the increase row to get the 5 at the other front. So I needed 13 stitches for that last shoulder, and I've got my 12th stitch right into the edge there, so the 13th will go into the corner, chain 1. Now this is becoming the corner of the front, so do a double crochet for the first stitch, a double crochet for the next stitch. The last 2 stitches you always do 2 double crochets into the second to the last, and then 1 double crochet in the last stitch. It's just better if you increase before you get to the very end, you get a neater finish. And that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches there. And now you can really see that it's starting to grow and to form that cardigan shape. And this will get wider and wider to form the V-neck as you start to increase. It's also good to look to see now how we're counting the rows, because there's your first row, there's your second, which is a single crochet row, and there's your third, which is a double crochet row. But actually it's easier just to count. You can see this very clearly, there's 1, 2 double crochet rows. So the chart also tells you that you've got 1 double crochet row, and then you've got 2 double crochet rows on your third row, and it's just easier to count these double crochet rows rather than counting all of them, because they're really clear and easy to see. I think that's about it really, that's everything. So just keep going, increasing where it tells you to increase, and checking at the end that you've got the right amount of stitches. You'll see that each row here grows by 1, 2, 2 on either side. Yes, grows by 2 on either side. So 11 turns into 13, turns into 15. But of course the front will grow differently depending on where we put those increases. Right, I'll see you when you've got the back to the size that you'd like to be. Right, this is how your piece will look when you've increased it and increased it and increased it until you've got it wide enough for your whatever size you're doing. As I say, this is the medium size, because now we will be flipping it over. You see that? and joining it here for the arms. Now obviously before you start the arms, you must make sure that your last row is a double crochet row, because when we join we want to make sure that we're joining with a single crochet row. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. When you fold your cardigan over like this, do make sure that you're aware of which is the right side and which is the wrong side. Again, if I just pull that down, you'll see that facing you there is the nice braid, and all the way around the back is the braid. The wrong side doesn't have a braid showing at it, so that's how you know. I mean, if you're an experienced crocheter, you will know that the right side of a double crochet stitch looks like that. The wrong side has this sort of bumpiness to it here. So you want to make sure that you're on the right side with the smooth stitch facing you. Okay, so first of all we do, our last row was a double crochet, so now we're going to single crochet all the way to the arm. And I'll see you at the arm. 26, 27, and the last single crochet will be number 28 for the medium. I'm then going to single crochet into the chain space. Then obviously I'm going to miss out all these stitches, because on the other corner I'm going to single crochet into that chain space, and then I'm going to continue along the back with single crochet. And now you can see that I've joined the arm together. Okay, I'll see you round at the other arm. Right, I'm almost at the other corner. Just 2 more to do. 1, that's the last stitch, which is there. So I'm then going to single crochet into that corner, fold the arm, single crochet into the other corner, and then start to single crochet round to the front. Just 2 more stitches and I'm right back to the beginning. Chain 1, turn your work, and now you're going to double crochet all the way around again to the other side. So now you're working on the body. So as you go along, when you come to here, you'll just continue. You can see the crochet stitches there. They've joined very neatly, so you'll just crochet all the way around with double crochet. And now it's just double crochet and single crochet, then double crochet and single crochet until you actually get the length that you want. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you are a beginner, I will just show you what it's like to crochet across the armhole. It is very straightforward. Stitches are very clear. So that's 1 there, straight into there and neatly across. So you can see that really does look very neat as it goes across under the arm like that. And there you go, I've completed the row of double crochets, and you can see where it's joined neatly there. So after my double crochet I will make a chain and I'll be doing single crochets. So it's going to be single crochet, double crochet, single crochet all the way down until it's the length that you want it to be. But don't forget you've got the broad ribbing on the bottom, but we'll come to that in a minute. Right, so I've now got it to the desired length that I want. This is where I joined the arms together with the single crochet row, and then I did the double crochet row all the way around. So after you've joined with the single crochet row, I've then done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And I've ended on a double crochet row. Now don't forget that at the bottom of here you're going to have a 9 centimetre ribbing. The only way to know how long you want it is to try it on and work out for yourself what shape you want. This has produced quite a boxy design, and so for me that's worked out brilliantly. Right, now onto the ribbing. Now I think it's the broad ribbing on this cardigan that makes it such a lovely shape. Now to do that, you've ended on your last double crochet row. You then need to chain 13. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 chains will give you 12 ribbing stitches, and you'll see how that's done now. So chain 13, turn over, and now you're going to work into these bumps at the back, and you need to do a single crochet in the second bump from the hook. There's the first bump, you're going to do a single crochet in there. 1, 2, single crochet in that bump. That's 1. You need to do 12 altogether. 1, 2, 3, 'Oops, where's my bumps gone? 10. 11. And the last bump is just there. 12. Now then, we need to attach the first part of the ribbing to the actual cardigan. Now it's attached there in that first chain, so you need to attach it to the second chain. So you slip stitch through both loops of the next chain. So slip stitch, then you slip stitch through the next chain, slip stitch, then anchor it there with a chain and turn. Now this is where you've got to be really careful to make sure you can see exactly what you've done. If I just bend it over like that, you can see that there's your turning chain, there's one of your slip stitches, there's the other slip stitch. So you don't want to end up working into these slip stitches, you want to work in the first chain. Now when you work into that first chain, go through both loops of that chain. There's one, and now you're going to work through the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and in the last stitch you work through both loops. Some people do just work through the back loop, but I think it just makes a much stronger ribbing if the first and the last stitch you work into both loops. Right, so again, chain 1, turn. The first stitch is going to go straight back into that first stitch under both loops. 1, and then we're going to work into the back loop. 1, 2, 10, 11, and the 12th one is just there. So again, working through both loops because it's the last stitch. Then we need to anchor it back to the base of the cardigan. Now this stitch has already been worked into, so it's really the next V along that you can see, that's the next stitch. That's been anchored, so we're now going to anchor it into this one by slip stitching it, then slip stitching it through to the next one, then anchoring it with a chain, turning your work, there's the chain, there's one slip stitch, there's another slip stitch, that's the actual stitch you're working into. So you work through both loops, 1, and then we're going through the back loop only. 2, 3, 11, the last loop that you'll work through both is 12. Now keep counting, because if you end up gaining a stitch, the ribbing will look really wonky, it'll look terrible. So it's a good idea whilst you're starting the ribbing for the first time is just to keep counting until you're used to it. Right, so chain 1, turn back again, through both loops, 1, 2, and then through the back, 2, 3, 4. I'm just coming to the end of my ribbing now. I've got 3 left, so that's anchoring into 2 with the 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, turning. I sort of quickly got into just counting 3 from the hook, 1, 2, 3, and working into the 4th stitch. 1, 2, 3, working into the 4th, and then I knew I was going into the right stitch. That's both loops. Nine, 10, 11, and that 12th one is a bit smaller, so that's why it's good to count. And then I've only got 1 stitch left to work into. Do be aware that that stitch at the end is kind of slightly round a corner, so don't miss it. Don't think that you've ended there, because you'll end up with your ribbing further down than the front of your cardigan. So slip stitch into there. I've only got 1 to slip stitch into, but that's okay because I'm going to turn anyway and just work back up that side. 1, 10, 11 and 12. So that just means that the ribbing has ended as closely to that edge as possible. Right, you can cut this length and weave in your ends. I might just quickly show you how I do my weaving in of ends at this point. So we cut a long tail, thread my darning needle, and I'll make sure I'm on the back of the garment. Again, the back has got that lumpy double crochet as opposed to the smooth double crochet. Look for those lumps. And then I'm just going to weave it through to the next row. Don't pull too tight. And then I'm going to just weave it up through there. And then back down the other side. Now that can be snipped really close, like so. Right, there's your cardigan laid out, the right side out with the ribbing at the bottom. We now want to work on the ribbing that's going to go up through the middle, which will also have the buttonholes in it, and the buttons on one side. But to do that, we need to make a neat edge for the ribbing to be attached to. It's absolutely essential that you make sure you've got your cardigan the right side out. Another way of knowing that the cardigan is the right side out is that this tail that you started with your starting chain should be on the left. So make sure that's on the left, that the cardigan's the right side out, and we're going to do a neat chain edge or a single stitch all the way around the cardigan, and I'll show you how to do that now. It's pretty easy when you start here because that's a simple chain that you're going to, or a simple single crochet stitch that you're going to work into, but it gets a bit more tricky when you get to the actual edge of these rows because there isn't an obvious stitch, but I'll show you how I do it. And it should be easy for you to follow. Right, stressing again, working on the left-hand side of this cardigan with the front facing you, you need to join your yarn at the beginning, the very bottom corner of that ribbing. So that's quite straightforward. You can see, I've got the wrong size hook here. 1 minute. So to attach the yarn right in that corner, it's very easy to see that first stitch. Pull through a loop, chain one just to attach it, and then go straight back in with a single crochet. Now it's very easy to see where to put another single crochet all the way up the side. The last one. Now you can see as you reach your rows of double crochet and single crochet, there isn't an obvious edge to do a row of single crochet, and that's why we're doing this row of single crochet, because it's not easy to join a ribbing to a raggy edge like that. We want a really neat row of single crochet all the way around the cardigan to attach the ribbing to. This is the worst bit about crochet, because there are no rules and there's no exact way of doing something, but this is the easiest way I've worked it out. As long as you make sure you do a single crochet into every single crochet row, one single crochet, and you do 2 single crochets into each double crochet row, you should get an even number of stitches. Let me explain. The other thing, right, okay, so there's a single crochet row. You can't actually get it into the knot there, it's too difficult, so I'm just going to put it next to that knot there. And now I'm going into the double crochet row. Now what you don't want to do is to work into a big hole like that, because that'll just make the hole pull apart even more. You want to work into the actual very edge of the crochet stitches. So there's your first little space after that knot to put your single crochet. That one's just a bit stiff actually, but you can just get it in there. Oh, hang on. That one is just a bit tight there. You'll see it'll get easier as we work up. There's one in that double crochet row. The next one, again, I'm not going to work into this big hole. I'm going to work on the edge. Is there. Then I've got to work into this single crochet row here. And the best place is this tiny little hole, not a big hole, just a tiny little hole there. So then you know you've gone into your single crochet row. Then skip over that big knot and again work into that first part of the double crochet row, not into the big hole but into the edge of the stitching. It sort of goes under 2 loops, so it makes it very clear. Then you need to do another single crochet into that row, and now we've come to our single crochet row, so you'll work into that little hole just there. Skip over that big knot. But now we've done the single crochet row, we're going to work into that double crochet row, so we'll do 2 just into the edge there, and then there's that little hole again for the single crochet row. So you can see that this is now the edge of this cardigan is a lovely neat edge of single crochets, whereas the rest of the edge of the cardigans all raggy and not very tidy. So there you go, that's your first lot. I'll see you again when I get to the top and round at the other side. Now I'm coming to the end, so I'll just show you. I've gone into that little hole, then I've got two single crochets to work into that double stitch. Then looking at the edge, there's a little hole to work into there. Then that's your very edge where you've got two double crochets. So again, we'll just work into there and into there. So you've gone right to the edge, and you're now going to go round the back of the collar, and you can see that now you've got obvious stitches to work into. So as soon as you've done the last two there, then we want a single crochet into here, and then keep working all the way around. There we go, I'd say that's about the last stitch in the back of the collar. And the principle is the same. As you work down the front, you want to try and fit in a single crochet where there's a single crochet row and two single crochets where there's a double crochet row. So that would be one single crochet, two single crochets, one single crochet, two single crochets. But the actual formation of the stitch looks different coming down this side, as I said, because this is where you would start your double crochet row, so it looks different. So let's see how we're going to do it. So we want to make sure that I get, well, I think that might be, we want to get one in there, which is quite an easy stitch. It's difficult at the beginning, but then you get into a pattern, and then two in here. Look, we can, along that double crochet row, so that looks like and again, working under two strands is always better. That's a bit tricky. Working under two strands is better, and not, you've got no choice there, you're going to have to work into a hole just there. Now then, we've got a single crochet row. Can't get in, let's go in there. Now we want to do two into this double crochet row. So there's one just on the edge, and there's two. That's going through a hole, but it's not a very big hole. So there's your single crochet row there. So let's just work under two strands. I'm going to try and, I don't want to work into that hole to make it any bigger, so I'm going to try and work it into there, and then into there. One, and then I need to fit two more in. Two, three. There's my single crochet row. one there, and then I need to fit 2 in here. So let's try pushing it through there and through there. Right, work your way down. As I say, the whole idea is you've got to stick with this pattern of doing 1 single crochet on a single crochet row and 2 in a double crochet row, because if you don't, there won't be the same amount of stitches on this side of the cardigan as there is on the other side. There you go. All done. With your neat edge on both sides, with your neat single crochet edge on both sides all the way around. Now all you need to do is cut your yarn, pull through a loop and weave in those ends. Because now we're going to start the ribbing, and when we start the ribbing it always looks neater if you start it on the left hand side of the cardigan. Okay, so before we do that, because on the left hand side is where the buttonholes are going to go, so we need to just work out where our top buttonhole will go. And the way I do that is to count all your rows from the very top. Now that is your first 2 double crochets at the top, so that's your first row. That's your second row of single, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So the buttonhole goes just on the 18th row, but further in. But I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so start your ribbing. At the bottom left corner by inserting your hook through both loops on the stitch, pulling through a loop, making a chain that just attaches the yarn and then goes straight back in there. And now you need to make a chain of 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because the ribbing going up the middle of the cardigan is 9 chains wide, or 9 stitches wide. So do another chain, that makes 10, because that's going to be a turning chain, and then just like we did before, work in the second bump from the hook with your first single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9. Now it's attached there. So we need to attach it with a slip knot into the next stitch, pull through, go to the next stitch and do another slip stitch, anchor it with a chain, turn it round, count 1, 2, 3 chains from the hook and work into the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. That, you know you're going into the first stitch then, and you go through both loops on the first stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, back loop only, 8, that 9th one just there to make sure you've definitely got 9. It's already attached there, so you want to slip stitch it into the next stitch and then slip stitch it into the next stitch. Right, so you need to do this for 7 rows in total, and I'll show you how you count your rows once I get there. Right, so when I said 7 rows, I actually meant 6, sorry about that. Let me show you how you count your ribbing stitch, because this is quite important. So you get your buttonholes evenly spaced, you need to be able to count the ribs. So your ribbing stitch kind of goes up in bumps like this. There's your first row, which is the flat one at the beginning. Then the second one comes up, 2, and the third one goes down. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 6 rows there. I'll count those again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the 7th is where you're going to make a buttonhole. So just like before, you need to single crochet through both loops for the first stitch. The second one, you go through the back loop only, just like before. The third, back loop only. But the 4th, you want to go through both loops. Then chain 2, miss off 2 stitches. There's 1, 2, go into the 3rd stitch along, miss off 2, go into the next one. Oh, and go through both loops. Then go through the back loop of the next one and both loops of the last one. Then if you count along, you've still got 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But you've got a neat buttonhole there. You can see why it's important to go in through both loops on either side of the buttonhole, because it just makes a much firmer hole. And we'll work on from there. Now, working out where you put your buttonholes will be different for everybody, because it depends how long you want your cardigan to be. But remember, there are only 3 buttons, and everybody's button will start. The top button has to be on that 18th single crochet stitch, or there or thereabouts. So the best way to work this out, I think, is to measure down to your first buttonhole. So to there, which is where my first buttonhole is, 32 centimetres. So half of 32 is 16. So I've put a marker in there. So we need to keep crocheting up to around here, and then once we've got this much done, we can measure more accurately by counting our rows to make sure we have the exact number of rows that goes to the next buttonhole. Okay, well, I'll start with this row and then we'll get back to it. So there's my buttonhole row with the 2 chains above it. That just needs anchoring to the side of the cardigan. So we slip stitch it again, chain 1, count 3, from the hook 1, 2, 3, and work back into that first stitch with a single crochet under both loops. Now we want to work in the back loop only all the way along and across the top of that chain, just like it was an ordinary single crochet stitch. There's there. Both loops on the last one, and you'll turn. So on your 7th row you put in your first buttonhole. Okay, keep going until you get to that middle marker, and then we can measure more accurately. So doing the buttonholes and getting them evenly spaced is a bit of trial and error. We know we definitely want our top button to be along that line. The middle one was approximately around here, but the only way to get this accurate is to count how many stitches you've got after that buttonhole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So if we did the buttonhole on this row, on row 22 from the buttonhole, then we would attach it. It's already attached there, but that row would be attached there. Then you need to count 21 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and that gets you to that line. This is going to be different for everybody because it depends how long your jumper is, but that's my easiest explanation of how to get your buttonholes evenly spaced going up. Right, so let's start on that buttonhole row. Again, make sure that you're doing your buttonhole on a row that comes in so that it looks exactly like the one down below. And like before, do a single crochet into that first stitch, back loop only into the second stitch, back loop only into the third stitch, and both loops for the fourth. Chain 2, miss 2, 1, 2, single crochet into both loops of the next stitch, back loop of the next stitch, and then both loops for the last stitch. And then just count, you've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. Now that is going to be anchored. It's already been anchored there. So we're going to anchor it in here. And again, so that we can turn and go back up the other way. Count 3 from the hook, 1, 2, 3. Go into the fourth, then you know you're going into the right place. 1, back loop only, 2, back loop only into those chains, back loop only, And there's your first row after that buttonhole, and you need to make sure you do 21 altogether. I'm just finishing that 21st row that I counted from the top of that row that's got the buttonhole in, 1 to 21. So now I'll be working on the last buttonhole, because this is now parallel with that 18th row coming down. So this ribbing, you can now continue. You've done all your buttonholes, you don't need to worry about anything else. You can just keep going till you've gone all the way up the side, the left side of the cardigan, across the neck and all the way down the right side of the cardigan, and then you finish the ribbing on the inside. So that's the ribbing all the way around the cardigan, both sides, with your buttonholes. Right, if you go back to your original pattern, it'll tell you how many stitches you should have ended up with on your arms, depending on the size that you did. So I'm doing the medium, so it says that I should have 49 stitches in my arms. So there's the arm, and I've actually marked it out just so that you can be clear. Started there and I counted all the way round and ended up with 49. So that's 49 stitches on the arms. Now these arms need to extend obviously, and also slightly taper, so you get that nice classic cardigan shape. Again, the pattern makes it really clear. The row 1 we do will be a single crochet, and you'll do 49 stitches all around. So it's really important, again, that you have got the cardigan the right side out, with the front facing you. Now I'm going to work on the right side as it faces you, right side of the cardigan. Now the first row I'm going to do is a single crochet row. Now because I'm doing a single crochet row, I'll be looking at the back of the cardigan. So just orientate yourself that you don't want to start the single crochet row there, because then you'll be doing the single crochet row on the right side of the cardigan. You need to start your single crochet row inside the cardigan so that you're working on the back all the way round. So if I pull out that marker, that was my 49th stitch, attach your yarn straight in there, make a chain to attach it, then go straight back in there with a single crochet. If it helps, you can put the stitch marker back in so you know that's your first stitch. And now you're going to just single crochet all the way around. And as you see, you're working on the wrong side of the cardigan. All the way around for 49 stitches. I'm now just finishing that row of single crochets. There's my last stitch. And then we need to turn the work, so do a turning chain, turn the work around, and now you'll see row 2 we're going to double crochet for 49 stitches. At the end of 49 double crochet stitches we'll turn the work again and do row 3, which would be single crochet 49 stitches, and then I'll show you how to start the decrease. So for this double crochet row I've made a turning chain, just one turning chain, and I'm going straight back into that first stitch with a double crochet, and we'll double crochet all the way around. And because I'm now doing a double crochet row, I'm working on the right side of the cardigan. Double crochet all the way around. I'll then turn the work and single crochet all the way around for 49 stitches. I've now done 3 rows. The first was a single crochet row, the second was a double, and the third was a single crochet row. So that's chain 1 to turn your work, and now we're going to do a decrease row. And again, the pattern tells you and highlights in red every time you're going to decrease. So you're going to now decrease down to 47 stitches. And we do that by doing a double crochet in the first stitch, a double decrease in the next stitch, and then a double crochet all around until the last 3 stitches. So that's a double crochet in the first stitch, and then a decrease in the next stitch. So you're going to decrease, you're going to decrease these 2 stitches together. So that's wrap your wool around, put it into that first stitch and pull through 2, but instead of finishing it off, wrap your wool around again, go into the next stitch and pull through 2. You've now got 3 loops on the hook, wrap the wool around and pull through all 3. So now you've decreased, you've put 2 stitches into 1 stitch. Sorry, put 1 stitch into 2 stitches, and now we're going to continue all the way round to the other side, where we'll do exactly the same, because you want both sides to be the same. I've double crocheted all the way around. I've now got 3 stitches left at the end of that row. So again, we do the decrease in these 2 and double crochet at the end. So the double crochet decrease, wrap your wool around, pull the yarn through, pull through 2, then wrap the wool around, pull the yarn through, pull through 2, and pull through all 3, and then do the double crochet to finish. Do a turning chain, and now you'll be working on your single crochet row. So as I say, the pattern is very, very clear. It tells you exactly how many stitches you should have in each row and when to do the decrease. And if I were you, I'd count every now and again how many stitches you have to make sure you've got the right amount of stitches on each row, because they absolutely do need to mirror the same on both sleeves. There you go. Right, the only way to decide whether the sleeve is the right length is to try the whole cardigan on and look at it against your arms. You can't just measure your arms, because it depends on how wide the body is, depending on where the arm starts. So remember that at the bottom of this sleeve you will get the same ribbing that's at the bottom of the cardigan, and that ribbing measures about 9 centimetres in length. So try the cardigan on. I mean, you could literally measure 9 centimetres and put a little dot there on your wrist, and then see if the cardigan lies to there when you try it on, because you're then going to add on this ribbing. And that's the great thing about making your own. I mean, I've got long arms, and it's nice that I can make a cardigan with the exact right length sleeve. So I know it seems like a bind, and that you could just start the ribbing where you've ended up, but if you start the ribbing here, you will attach the ribbing. You'll end up attaching the ribbing on the wrong side of the cardigan, and you'll get a messy finish here. So the only way to start the ribbing is to cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and you need to start the ribbing on the right side of the cardigan, not on the back of the cardigan. And I'll quickly show you that. Just like at the bottom of the cardigan, pull through a loop, attach it by making a chain, and then do 13 single crochets. 13 chains will give you 12 stitches, because we're going to turn our work into the back bumps only. Do a single crochet. There's 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, and that was just where we attached it there. So it's attached to that first stitch. You need to attach it to the second stitch with a slip stitch into the next one, pull tight, count 3, 1, which is your turning chain, 2, 3, and then back through both loops there, and work all the way to the top in the back loop only until you get to the top, where you'll work through both loops. And again, keep counting 12 so that it doesn't go all wonky. I've now nearly finished the ribbing on the end of the sleeve, so let me just work into that last stitch. Well, first of all, let me just count how many I've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 12. And now I'm just going to slip stitch right there into that little stitch there, and that's come to the end of the row. So cut your yarn, pull through a loop, and just weave in those two ends. Again, do you want to, I'll just show you a quick weaving in of ends. On the back, I'm just going to slide my darning needle through there, and I'm going to go back through there. Maybe I'll just do a little bit more, just so it's really secure. And do the same with your other threads on either side. So that's this arm done, which is the one on the right side of the cardigan as you're looking at it. And as I showed you, there's the front of the cardigan, and this first row was started on the inside here, because you were working a single crochet for your first row and you wanted to work a single crochet into those back stitches. So similarly, on the other side, of the cardigan, and I've done this sleeve now. This time, with the cardigan facing forwards, the right side out, this time you'll be starting your single crochet row and working down on the front part, because you want again to start working on the back, going that way round on the wrong side of the stitches with a single crochet row. What you don't want is to end up with suddenly having the back stitches on the front, because the whole design it'll show and it'll look terrible. So, right, I'll weave in all my ends and then I'll show you how we sew up the arms. So lay out your cardigan so that it's completely flat and all the edges are matching up, and then I've just put in 3 long pins just to hold it together. Now at the cuff end, you've reached the end of your ribbing. We now need to create a rib down here so that the rib is continuous all the way around. So we do that. That's your first stitch. Go into your first stitch on this side and just do a slip stitch all the way through and a turning chain. So I would just go through there again with your first double crochet stitch into your first, single crochet stitch into your first 2 stitches on either side. There's your second going through both chains. There's your second on the corresponding side, which goes through there. Pull through and do a single crochet. Then your third, going through both loops, third on the corresponding side, pull through and do a single crochet stitch. And again with your fourth stitch, fourth one on the other side, both loops. The one on this side is a bit tighter because that was your first chain that you made. And then just keep going all the way to the end of the ribbing. There's your next, both loops. There's your next one. Single crochet. There's your next one. And now you see you've got this continuous ribbing all the way around. Pull tight, because now you're going to whip stitch up the rest of the arm. And I do this on the right side. I don't turn the cardigan out, because I find that if you turn the cardigan inside out and sew up the edges, when you turn it round you get this bulky edge. So I tend to just whip stitch on the very edge of the cardigan, like so, equal distances apart, and trying to get through 2 loops or a good bulky bit of the arm so that the join is secure without being all bulky and thick. So continue along to under the arm, and now the final stage is to sew on your buttons. Nearly finished.